This move announced by the State Department comes just one day after the current Secretary of State John Kerry doubled down on those attacks against Israel we mentioned, which will make achieving Mideast peace even harder for President-elect Donald Trump. And our next guest, a leading expert on Russia, says these new sanctions are not really aimed at Russia. This move, too, is actually meant to muddy the water some more for Mr. Trump. Stephen Cohn is professor of Russian studies at both NYU and Princeton University. Welcome, Professor. You say this is the president trying to cripple Mr. Trump a bit?
Well, it's one of the things I said. I'm not sure. I mean, look, we got a really strange situation, and I would say exceedingly dangerous.
Why?
Well, our relationship with Russia is worse than it's been since the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. And we're taking steps that are going to escalate it, make it worse. On the other hand, they haven't given us any facts about what the Russians actually did. So between this, I would say, semi-hysterical reaction by the American political class and the absence of facts, we don't ask, what's the impact of this going to be on Russia itself?
So
what kind of decisions is it going to produce in Moscow?
So what went wrong? We walked through some of the history, and it appears that Barack Obama, to say the least, in the 2012 campaign, downplayed the idea that Russia was a big political foe.
You don't want to ask me that question. You really don't. Because, first of all, we need a lot of time. Secondly, I'll commit an act of heresy.
Which is?
I've written a book about American-Russian relations since the end of the Soviet Union. 25 years this month, by the way. Congratulations.
Good way
the
to go.
Soviet Union. Wait, I did a good job. I conclude that we got where we are today in a new and more dangerous Cold War primarily because of American policy, not primarily because of a Russian policy. That does not make me an apologist for the Kremlin. What it makes me is a defender of American national security. So here's the question. Some of your people asked it.
Sure.
To what extent was what Obama did today? And by the way, it's not the sanctions that are dangerous. That's old Cold War stuff.
Right.
It's the covert actions he says are coming next. Right? I mean,
because you think that could blow back against us?
Well, what does he mean? Covert actions, cyber actions against banks, against nuclear control and command facilities, against their radar? I mean, you don't want to make Russians in a state of high anxiety.
And he's doing this on the eve of a transfer of power here in the United States. And add to the mix these reports tonight about Russia brokering a ceasefire on Syria. And President Obama on the sidelines, not part of that, but the Russians are saying to Donald Trump, when you take office, you can join the talks.
Yeah, and that was very interesting. And basically he said, we're not talking to Obama anymore. We will talk to Trump. He can come into this. By the way, we should be talking about this Syrian arrangement because it's extremely important. But we're distracted about this. But here's the question.
But are we distracted on purpose? Because the administration doesn't want to talk about Syria because they haven't been able to deal with that crisis.
You know, I don't know if it's possible, but I think it's likely that an element of this, these measures taken against Russia, particularly the sanctions, are meant to block any Trump-Putin cooperation or détente. I mean, McCain and the others virtually say that. But you got to ask, are the Russians going to retaliate now? I mean, we call what we did retaliation.
Yeah, they say they will.
Yeah, but we don't know until we produce the facts. Obama says he'll produce the facts in a few days, what the Russians actually did.
So your bottom line point tonight is, you've got 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, we are in an exceedingly dangerous relationship with Russia. There are 3 places fraught with actual war: Ukraine, Syria, and, of course, the Baltic region, where NATO is building up. Escalating now, with everybody talking about nuclear weapons, as Trump did last week. In my lifetime, I don't recall anything as dangerous as we now are going through, with a layer of hysteria in the media, everybody demanding that Obama do more.
Welcome to office, Mr. Trump. We appreciate it. Professor Cohn, thanks for that.